All right.
Okay, we're recording.
All right, so welcome, everybody. This is the Executive Committee of Manhattan CD1. Delighted to have everybody here tonight. We're gonna move through it as quickly as we can. I do know that there's a request. Is Karen here? Hey, would you like to go first? I heard,
Oh, sure.
potentially. Okay, so we're gonna do things a little out of order. We're gonna do the temporary beer, wine, cider license for the 30th annual Taste of Tribeca event on Saturday, May 18th to 1st. Okay, the floor is yours.
I'm representing Taste of Tribeca, which is a nonprofit organization partnership between PS 115 on Trinity Place and PS 234 Tribeca Greenwich Street. And we are applying for a temporary beer, wine, and cider permit to be able to distribute glass wine or beer within a enclosed tent area.
Sorry, could you just sit at the
Sorry.
table and talk to the camera?
Okay.
It's a little quiet. Thanks.
Dulcet tones do not form well, so thank you.
It is a community event. There's going to be restaurants participating as well as school and community organizations. It's from 11:30 to 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon.
Okay. And it's just for Saturday, correct?
Just for Saturday, yes.
Great, and will you be proofing and IDing because it is a school event? And I know
Yes.
that it's all ages.
Yes, so the enclosed area is tented and it will be completely fenced off with 2 entrances. We will have staff checking IDs as well as providing wristbands to 21 and over. And ensuring that no alcoholic beverages leave the enclosed area.
Great. We'll go over to the table. Susan, questions?
No.
Okay, Laura? Eric? Brendan? Amy?
Question in terms of tickets?
So the tickets are tasting tickets. So there's a general admission ticket where you will purchase 6 tastings of any restaurant's booth of your choice. And the alcohol, the beer and wine
Is separate.
only be for the VIP ticket, which is the tented area. And so it's a separate ticket sale that will happen in advance, and not on the day of. typically.
Really?
Yeah,
So somebody wants to go and have beer and wine, they won't be able to.
correct.
Because it's at the sit down, basically.
It's at the sit down, yep. These
Yeah, yeah,
are
thank
seated table, yeah, and inside a tent enclosure. I think
Yeah, yeah.
because the parameters of the permit require us to have it in an enclosed space as opposed to open canisters.
And this is a fundraiser.
It's a fundraiser
For the school.
for the 2 public schools art programs.
It's my favorite event of the year.
Yes.
Yeah.
30th annual event.
Second. What date is it?
May 18th.
May 18th.
And does anybody from the public have any questions? No. And where is it again? What
May
street is it? What street is it on?
It's on Wayne and Greenwich, and it spans Reed to Jay. And then on Dwayne from Hudson to Greenwich, between Hudson and Greenwich.
Okay, so motion was made, motion seconded. We're doing a support this. I'm gonna go by a vote of affirmation, assuming everybody's a yes.
Yes.
I go for everybody online. Please unmute yourself and make sure your cameras are on. Yep, Vicky? I'm sure Vicky's there in the
She
dark.
was there.
Yeah, I saw her.
She was there.
Okay, are there any opposed?
She is.
Yeah, she is.
No. Are there any abstentions? Are there any recusals? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I'm sure you get to get home for kids.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
I ran down.
Alrighty, perfect. Now, do I have anybody in the, hello, Mayor? email your contact. Do I have anybody in the room here for,
We need this.
from Lift Charms?
Life.
Life?
Email
Yeah.
chief.
Okay, so I'm gonna go down the list. For 177 Duane Street, just an update, and I updated Laura. I received a letter from the landlord of the space saying that they would not be renting to the proprietor in question on the cannabis dispensary applications, that they already have a tenant in mind that they are negotiating actively with that is not a cannabis. So we advised and sent that to the cannabis applicant. So they know that that is not a location for them. We will be then doing a resolution to be on official record to decline them because they have not withdrawn. If we do hear that they will withdraw, we will have it as listed as a withdrawal, but pursuant to the notification from the landlord and their lack of coming to the meeting, we will be declining them.
Absolutely.
Along with the fact that they are within footage of a public youth facility because Duane and Greenwich, Washington, dead end, Duane Street dead ends into Greenwich and the entrance to the children's playground, which is against the youth facilities. And we do have a lovely map, but it's not necessary because the school is not on the same road according to them. Our files say something on what we vote. It's just, even under the basic cannabis laws, we're going with this is inappropriately cited. And we don't think they can open that. So, Brandon.
Sorry, quick question. Then who did they pay to get this address?
Life.
They did.
Who said they did?
So they just listed a random site?
Hard license, so they don't have to have control of the site yet. They
Right?
already have a license.
So they were just like, oh, I saw that there's this empty
We don't know.
space.
We have no, it's a speculation. We
Okay.
really don't know.
All right.
They just don't say anything. That's kind of the.
But it's certainly the people in the building are hostile to it. And most of all, the landlord is not going to rent to them. So
Well-
there you are.
So,
Right?
do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Okay, this should be a negative resolution for 177 Duane. I like how fast this goes. We'll go by a vote for affirmation. Assuming everybody's a yes, and this includes everybody.
Well, I
online,
have to
please.
recuse myself.
Yeah, that's fine.
Some
I don't
refusal.
Yes.
So are there any opposed to denying them? Hearing none. Laura's already said Laura Starr recuses.
And Laura's voting.
She is here for Patrick, because Patrick's not here. Okay, and do I have any abstentions? Hearing none, motion passes
That's great.
unanimous with one recusal. Thank you. All right.
But can I ask a question?
Absolutely. And now that
Well,
we're moving so quickly, this is good. What's up?
So when we were trying to get our hands around this, I mean, are we saying that no cannabis dispensary will be able to open up on this block because of its proximity to that? Are we saying that the playground at Washington Market Park counts as a public youth facility? And
Yes.
how can the board document that? And do you need help from our block to help make a case to the
We need to make a
OCM or
case.
whatever it's called? Like we're here, like now that we're riled up and ready to not let this happen again, like we don't want to keep coming back here. You probably don't want to see us all the time.
I think we should
So-
make the case that the playground is a public youth facility because it qualifies under it is used primarily for the use of children. It actually has signage and everything else on it that says you have to be a kid to be in there.
Okay.
And that, they should draw the line in the map from that location and everything else around.
Well, I did. I mean, I
Yes.
gave you that map.
I hear there's some discrepancy as to what OCM considers a public youth facility, where they have, where they don't. There's also a good point that you can start advocating for the local city council to make a law that prohibits them from being near playgrounds.
Okay.
And that is the biggest thing that we need right now, right?
Yes, that, and, I mean, the only thing I'll say briefly is that even if the city government does put a prohibition in place for playgrounds, there's a carve out for card licenses specifically. So that needs to be addressed.
And that needs to be changed.
And that's what the state.
So that's why,
That's,
that was one of the reasons why, like, we, you know, we knew that the landlord was writing a letter and that, you know, we thought we were in a pretty good situation for our goal of this resolution. But since we already did all this organizing, I want to make sure that it's helpful to the larger cause.
there are two places that need to go. Letters need to go to your state electeds. The card licenses should not get they don't have to follow all the rules. Because it was designed for if card licenses had locations. But card licensees don't have locations because they didn't get the rollout done. So it's a little bit, I can't even explain it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. So that's one. And the second thing is local laws and municipalities can make rules.
And on this, actually technically have to, because there is no existing. program.
Okay, so we'll work on that, I guess.
Okay.
We'll,
And that should be, and I think you would be widely supported by every other community, because I can't imagine any community would like to see a cannabis store across the street from a children's playground.
well, I was gonna ask the Taste of Tribeca how they thought about the kids being able to go get the cannabis cupcakes during their event.
Hey, I did that. I don't.
Okay.
That's actually a new license that'll be coming up soon, which is,
I'll
Okay,
make my money some other way.
okay, all right, well, thank you.
but I mean, the two
Okay.
things that we really need, and especially because you dead end on that street, would be to
Okay.
have everyone say, one, we want local legislation that prohibits it.
Okay,
That's the most important thing locally. And then the state needs to come back and say, and the city should do as well, that the card licenses have to follow the same
Absolutely.
proximity things as everybody else.
okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, rolling along. Anybody from Soho Dispensary?
Guess you guys are done. So these guys don't have to talk.
No.
or-
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you for coming.
Bye.
Thanks, Kelly Goldberg. Thanks, Madeline.
Is anybody here from Soho
Thanks,
Dispensary?
Delaney.
No, this is not what else. All right, so again, Soho Dispensary, will get a
letter.
Thanks, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
Right? Don't they get a
They're gonna
notice?
get the denial.
Denial.
Denial because they no showed and they're within the 1,000 foot of a pending.
In all three of those locations?
Yeah.
They were trying to play the odds, but we don't have time for odds because we're not allowed extensions.
Mm.
So we're gonna deny them based on the 1,000 foot rule pending and the fact that they didn't show. Gonna do a vote by affirmation.
Yep. I so moved.
Seconded.
Okay, great. Now that I have both of those, do I have any in opposition to the denial? God bless you. Hearing none. Are there any abstentions or recusals? Hearing none, that moves. What? Okay.
I need a little clarification on who is voting for who here. 'cause-
Okay. So Eric is voting for Justine. He's representing BPC. For Justine, okay. And Susan's here. Amy's here, just,
That's.
yeah.
Are you doing quality of life?
Landmarks.
Yep. Got y'all in.
Betty and,
Francis.
Paul.
Or I guess.
Paul.
Betty.
It doesn't matter. We can have two landmarks.
Vicky's here from Landmarks. Paul's here from Waterfront. Betty's here from Transportation.
Jason was here, wasn't
No, Vicky. That's all no Jason.
Yeah.
Oh,
Tammy, at some point, I would like to speak to the executive committee on behalf of the landmarks, so let me know when that's appropriate.
okay, give me a couple minutes and we'll get there.
Thank you.
We'll go around and say, you're welcome. Okay, so, did everyone get the links to the public comment of the Office of Cannabis Management's proposed adult use amendments?
No.
Let's see if we can link and put that one up.
I was just looking for the meeting links. I found one.
This was the one that was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
That's not in the email.
Do you have that by any chance?
There was a link. Everyone was just like, that's in the email we got today.
Yes.
Today? There
The
was
cannabis
just
link.
Oh, we got this. Yes, from today at 12:30.
Sorry.
The executive committee agenda.
Hmm.
There's like one link in it, which is to the pedestrian plaza rules.
It's like you do on the website.
Was it rules?
Yeah.
OCM?
OCM.
It's over. While Jared's getting us set, I'm gonna frame, bylaw working group we postponed to May. I'll get back to sharing the folder. We're putting together all of the resolutions that we've passed on open meeting laws. I did hear, so we can adjust our bylaws accordingly, I did hear at the borough board this morning that within the state budget was a blanket extension for the current open meeting laws that will get us well past July into, I think, 2025 or 6. So we have plenty of time to work on that. There are boards who believe different things in terms of some want to be all in person, some want to be hybrid, some want to be all virtual. So it will be good to, we've already said our opinion, and so we'll just touch base with the borough president on that again. Okay. And if anybody wonders, so that just means that if you have qualified disability, you count to quorum, whether you're in the room or online, that's flat. If you are in the room, you're in quorum. Those with extraordinary circumstances do not count to quorum, but may participate online once quorum is achieved. So, for example, if Mimi had an emergency work and she said, they're flying me to Toronto, I can dial in at night because I'll be there, but I have to go for work and I didn't know, she may participate if I have quorum based on everybody else. Does that make sense?
So it could be like an extra vote only if there's enough people in the room.
Correct. In the room or qualified disability, those are the ones. Okay, all right, so knowing that, let's.
But she can still vote?
Yes.
As long as we have the other quorum. That's. kind
But
of-
I can't make quorum.
You
No.
cannot make quorum, but you can participate. All right, so let's go, whoop, you're showing the vote sheet. Let's go back to.
That's how I vote.
I'm just gonna take a
All
look.
right.
There you go. All right, so here's Jared, take it away.
Okay, so one of the things that we've been talking about quite a bit lately with the dispensaries is that, you know, the state is applying a 500-foot distancing requirement from schools, which is in line with the law, but they are adding in additional qualifiers. They're saying that it has to be on the same road and exclusively used as a school. So, you know, the example that we've used frequently is that PS 234 is a freestanding building, thus that building is used exclusively as a school. But PS 89, which is on the ground floor of a high-rise residential building, does not exclusively use that building as a school, and thus it does not, it would not block a dispensary from opening up nearby. In fact, a dispensary could open up on the same block, store in the same building. So we've said that
Or Millennium High School, for
Right.
example, in a mixed-use building, could have a marijuana store in the lobby.
And so we've said to the OCM repeatedly, it's not, you know, that's, okay, it's a nice thought, but where are you getting this from? It's not in the law and it's not in your regulations. They at various points said, it is in our regulations. And we said, it's not in your regulations. And so now, you know, 5 months later, they come back to add them into the regulations. So there are two things. One, it means that it hasn't been in the regulations this entire time. Yet that is the standard that's been applied. They have now put them in the proposed regulations. And there's a public comment period between now and, it's the 10th of April, actually, and June 10th. And, you know, it's an issue that has come up a lot. There's not, there's an argument to be made that there's not really support for this in the law itself. Cannabis law just says 500 feet from school, 200 feet from house of worship. And, you know, frequently what the OCM has pointed to is the state liquor authority law, which the alcohol beverage control law, which does say exclusive use and same road. The argument here against doing that in the regulations is that the underlying law, the cannabis law does not say that, so they can't all of a sudden make new regulations that are less restrictive than the law. So I don't know, what our position on this is gonna be, but I would personally advocate that this type of language is inappropriate, it's not consistent with the law. The law says 500 feet from a school. It defines, points to the education law defines schools very broadly. You know, there's a whole host of different schools.
Correct.
It's in a section of the education law specifically about school health and safety in reference to smoking. I think the point is that the state legislature knows how to say exclusive use when they want to. They did not here. And so, you know, having the agency do it amounts, in my opinion, to be, you know, de facto legislation. And I think we should support it. I think we should come out against it.
Why would they change it to allow, why?
What are they basing it off of?
Like, why would they do it? What's the spirit behind it? Do you have any sense?
Why would who do it?
Why would they add this?
In that, because I think they intended to add it originally, you know, the whole time. And I think in their explanation to us in the Zoom in November was they're moving 1,000 miles an hour to get this, you know, regulatory system up in place and up and running, and this cannabis market up and running. And they meant to put it in there, but they didn't.
But why would they want that?
Because they're in the business of
Granting
licenses and opening up
getting money.
a New York legal cannabis market. That's
And it probably
the
works
agency's
better
goal.
in places that are not New York City, they're still in New York.
Yeah, I mean, well, but again, you know, the interests are not necessarily aligned. You know, I think we as a community have no problem, you know, generally speaking, many people don't have a problem with these stores. I don't have a problem with these stores, but I think there are appropriate locations and they're inappropriate locations. I think your school is an inappropriate location. The law thinks it's an inappropriate location, but, you know, this is not consistent with that.
So but the rule is that it's within 500 feet on the same street, right?
On the same street and
But-
exclusively used. That's
So
what they're
so
proposing.
you're proposing to say not exclusively used, which
Mhm.
of course makes sense, but what about on the same street?
I'm not even being that specific. I'm saying we should follow what the law says. And the law says 500 feet, period.
Period.
I
I
think
agree
now-
with that.
Now, the agency can define, the agency is well within its authority to define the, you know, the how it's being implemented. 500 feet can mean a lot of different things. There's an argument it could be it could mean on the same road. There's an argument it could mean as the crow flies. That I think is within their ability to make a determination on. But, you know, 500 feet is 500 feet is 500 feet. That's sort of my point there.
Would we lose the exclusive, like, use part of it? Because I think that's also important. Like, we want to say that, like, the schools don't have to be exclusively.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we're saying is, all we want to do is follow the existing law. The existing law just says 500 feet.
Existing law for
Cannabis
cannabis.
just says 500 feet. These are the agency regulations. This is what they are.
And are you saying it's also the same law for cigarette smoking?
No.
No, it's the
That's
same,
smoking.
the part that's the same is the education law, which defines what qualifies as school grounds. School grounds is the operative word, and they define it at very broadly. Elementary school, high school, preschool, you know, nursery school. I mean, it could be more narrow, but it is very broad in the way that it's defined.
And what I have heard and been told is one of the reasons they don't want to follow that is that it's so broad, you'd never be able to open a shop anywhere because every preschool and enrichment center could be counted as a school. So, you know, the conversation and question that people ask me, is there any, well, what about if it was limited to public schools? And I'm like, well, I'm not real sure that the private schools would be happy with that. Or maybe it's limited to a K-12 school. And that's a conversation that
Sure.
kind of needs to be had because there are, and when you look at where we're concerned about, you know, not, K-12 is part of it, you know, their comments and the conversations that people have had with me have said, well, are you really worried that preschoolers aren't walking into a shop to get a thing? I thought it was really more about being concerned about the teenage and up kids. So, I mean, there's a conversation to be had here that doesn't involve my opinion, it involves what the board thinks.
Reasonable minds could differ on that.
Yes.
Sure.
If a shop opened up, which regulation would they have to follow, the law or this one?
this,
This.
and
They
at the
have to
moment,
follow this one?
yes, and at the moment,
What about the law?
The law's too broad.
The law,
Well, the law is the law, so they would be in violation of it.
well, so. here's the-
No,
which law?
Yeah.
Well, which one, this one or?
Well, but
the
so
law
here,
we're talking
but here's the thing. What you see here that's proposed is what has already been applied for the last however many months, 6 months, give or take. So even though, that's how this came on our radar, because we kept asking, it came up in practical ways on the board. Wait a minute, how do we judge this? And, we asked this with the OCM, we said, this exclusive use language, the same road language, doesn't appear in the law and it doesn't appear in your own regulations, so where are you getting this from? And the response we got was, well, we intended to put it in there, but we didn't.
it's not good enough.
We all intend to do a lot of things that we
Right.
do, right? But so you're asking a question, at the moment, there is really no basis for it.
Right,
And so they're trying to
but
create,
there is a law about it right now.
there is a law about it.
Okay.
And the law says 500
This
feet.
is, the law says 500 feet.
Correct.
So anyone within 490 is in violation of the law, no
Correct.
matter what this says.
Except that's not how it's being applied.
Whether it's being applied or not, that's the law.
It's the law.
So somebody could bring a suit against them based on this law.
It won't,
Don't know if that would say that.
There's a contradiction between what's the laws that define the definition of an educational entity versus where the cannabis law
Because
was.
this would place, so this would force a company to violate the law.
well, again, it depends, right? Yes, in theory, yes. I mean, the OCM's position would be, we are given broad authority by the state to enact regulations around this issue, and we are doing so, we believe we're within the, I mean, I'm not
Yeah, yeah,
speaking
yeah.
for them, but I imagine that's what they would say.
Yes.
So,
So do we need a move to make a resolution?
Yes,
I move that we make a resolution to have the cannabis regulations align with the definition of schools. That.
The current laws.
Follow existing law, and
Existing
dictate
law.
we'll put which one.
Mhm.
You're gonna help me out.
72, 6, I think.
Yeah, all right.
numbers.
No, that doesn't, it does not require exclusive use. And the 500 foot not be bound by same road,
correct.
right?
Speak.
Yes, Betty?
In New York City, laws are passed and they are simply written, and so I'm asking Jared, is this true at the state level as well? Where the rulemaking is built into the law. It is assumed to be in the law, and the whole process of the rulemaking is where the public can weigh in and changes can be made. Does a process like that occur at the state level as well? If so, you're talking about affecting the rule versus the law itself, and the rules can be following the law. Their role is to interpret the law.
Well, so, yeah, I don't know a blanket answer to that. What I will say is that this is open for public comment at the moment. And, the point that we're making ultimately is that, yes, they're given broad latitude to create rules and regulations around this, but it can't undermine the law.
Well,
That's
not
it.
necessarily. Well, no, interpreting the law through rules, I think I would argue about the terminology used. Their whole role is to interpret the law into something that can be implemented. If the
Right, I
city
guess what
one
was-
is going to write and comment in the comment period about the rulemaking, that's another issue and it can be done. But that's
And
clear
this is-
that not that they're breaking the law.
This is specifically the public comment period about a amendment to the existing regulations, to the adopted regulations. They've already adopted regulations. They failed to have put this in there, despite the fact that that's what they're applying. And so this is that public comment period to amend the existing regulations.
So we are publicly commenting on the proposed amendment.
Which introduces this concept actually in writing, and for the first time, it was in draft, this language was in drafts of the regulations dating back to December 2022. I swear I said the year that way, 2022. It did not make it into the final version. Why it didn't make it into the final
We don't
version is
know.
beyond me, right, or any of us, we can't speculate. But now they're attempting to amend the regulations to include this, and now opens the public comment period. So we are at the
Commentate.
point of opining on during the public comment period.
I wouldn't want.
Eddie, does that answer your
I
question?
wouldn't want my kindergarten kids.
Yes. As long as you know, people stop saying they're breaking the law, they are interpreting the law, and CB1 is talking about disagreeing with that interpretation.
Yeah, in the
Yes,
public comment period.
Yeah, I mean, we're saying that we believe it's inconsistent with the law. I don't know that.
That may not be true.
It's an opinion, you know.
Right.
You know.
Okay,
So if you don't,
and, the public can comment, sure. Carrie? Hi.
I joined to be part of Friends of Dwayne Park and weigh in on the 177, but it was unnecessary. Thank you. So I think that you could also comment that if it was in the draft version and it was not adopted, that there's legislative history that would, that makes up the legislative history as well. And we should say that, might support whatever resolution we have that says it should be 500 feet as the crow flies, rather than the same road and, the same road language.
For sure. The other thing that, what you just said sparked something. The OCM on their website, basically to Betty's point, they will propose regulations, they'll open it for public comment, and then they will actually issue a response to the litany of public comments they've received. And if you go through it for this topic in the past, people have asked, I think the definition's overbroad, can we have it not include nursery schools? And in the OCM's own issued responses to public comment, it has said, XYZ law says, defines it, and that is what we have to comply with. So this seems like it's attempting to make it fit an objective or agenda, but there's not a whole lot of support for it.
So sorry, just one more question. So does that mean that the resolution that we would craft would be well, I'll let you guys do the resolution, but the bottom line is that we want to use the education law definition of school, which is broad, and doesn't say anything about same street or exclusive use.
Close. We want to just abide by the existing cannabis law, which is what says it. So the cannabis law says, to paraphrase, that no, dispensary can exist within 500 feet of a school ground, rather.
School
as
grounds.
defined by the education law. And then the education law defines school grounds. So it's really the cannabis law, the underlying law here that we want.
But what you just said is important because you're linking the original cannabis law to the definition of school grounds for the education. I think the two need to be linked.
Which the law already does.
Yeah, the law already does. Yeah, but
No, but I think in our resolution, we should, well, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. I leave it to you and Carrie to figure this out, but
it comes down to what the community wants to do. I mean, my personal point of view is that I think these things are not consistent with each other, and I would.
Should we take a vote and see?
But others can differ. I mean.
Well, I for one agree with that.
Okay,
Motion.
so that was a motion.
I second.
Second, okay. We're gonna go by affirmation for our public comment to amend the cannabis regulations to be consistent with the law to follow existing as they relate to having a school being non-exclusive use, 500 foot not bound by the same road, and school grounds as defined by education law. Right?
I would also just apply it to House of Worship as well.
I was gonna ask about that.
Yes.
Well, yes. And we also want to include, in their playgrounds, children's playgrounds. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Okay,
I like that.
with all that,
But wait, are we gonna do the religious institutions?
yeah, I have the houses of
Okay, great.
worship.
Great,
Yep.
okay.
Anybody else have any other additions to that? Okay.
That follows the current law.
Mhm.
Yes.
Betty has her hand raised.
Betty, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I will probably vote against it, but given all the exclusions put in, which sounds like people are trying to whittle away to make sure a law is not effective in our district, which is my biggest concern and why I think it's invalid to do that. But I think then you should put down how many spaces would even be eligible for legal business to go. Because it sounds like you've excluded everywhere in our district.
We've been
It'll be up
following,
to us.
Betty, we've been approving and following our own rules and guidelines, which we've already used, and we've already approved many in our district. So I think that assumption is actually incorrect. If you want, certainly take a look at what we've done, but we've approved a lot already. And there's lots of areas of our community that we've said yes to. So I don't think that that's necessarily characteristically.
I don't think it is at all.
Fair, yeah. I mean, I'm certainly happy to send you the list of where we approved, or there's
Oh, I know.
one that Onesh made that was accurate as of, I think, February, that had all the places that CB1 had approved. Something like a dozen of them, maybe? More and more?
More than that.
Yeah. So, if you want, I can see if I can find that map right now.
I have seen it. I am very aware of all these. I've been to all of these meetings. But thank you for the offer.
Okay, I'm just gonna pull that up for myself. And see, do a head tally. We have approved quite a few. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, we've approved about a dozen, so I can't imagine that, that would be a problem. Okay, with
So we
that,
have a motion and a
we have a
second.
motion and a second. I'm gonna go by affirmation. Is anybody in the room opposed, abstaining, or recusing? Is there anybody online opposed, abstaining, or recusing?
Kay abstains.
Thank you, Betty. Hearing no other people from online, motion passes. Okay, thank you so much for that. Okay, pedestrian plaza rules in consideration for open dining. All righty. We had a meeting this afternoon, for office procedures to understand open dining. At the end of open dining, it was mentioned that there are no rules that currently exist for open dining on pedestrian plazas and open dining on, and currently the open dining is prevented on pedestrian plazas. So when you think to yourself, what are pedestrian plazas? We have a nice list of pedestrian plazas in CB1. I'm gonna go over because it's not that many. We have Bogartis, which is on Hudson between Chambers and Reed. We have one coming to Barnett Newman, which is Church and White Plaza, and that's Church Street between Franklin and White. We have Coente Slip, which is operated between Water and Pearl. Forsyth Plaza, which is Forsyth by Canal and Division, right at the edge of where we are. It's kind of like a big historic thing, you'd never know it was a plaza. You have Gouverneurs Lane between Water and Front. You have Louise Nevelson Plaza, which is on William between Liberty and Maiden. And the Municipal Plaza in the lobby of our building, which is at 1 Center Street, right down here. So it's past the subways, that big open area. And then potential, we have 2 others that are coming online, Water and Whitehall. That's Water Street between Whitehall and that'll be the Downtown Alliance. And then we have the one on Thames Street that we've all had lovely conversations about. That's potential plazas that are not officially online. So we don't have a ton. But I can pull up the photos, or I can email them all to Zach if you want, of what the plazas look like in Community Board 1. If you want to just Google, I realize I didn't sign in, I apologize.
Water and
So, can you just, so
So for right now,
Downtown.
if we use
Down by me.
Bogardus as an example,
Well, I work at 1 Year Plaza, so I'm just like.
Right.
One.
it's eventual. So if you want to take a look and you say to yourself, okay, Bogardus Plaza, what's up at Bogardus? It is a closed street on Hudson.
Mhm.
There's public seating on that street. There's a kiosk that sells food on that street. And let me go and get my documents.
But what are they wanting to do? And in other words, if there was a nearby restaurant that they could have.
If there was a restaurant at the bottom, they could potentially put tables and chairs out on the sidewalk and in the pedestrian plaza that's closed.
Is there a limit to how many or anything like that?
There are no rules currently established.
So this is what the city is testing to see if we want to have this happen?
They will be doing something. I think that we should have a robust discussion and opine on it first. Because we should be able to stake out and then talk to our neighbor community boards and say what we want. Pedestrian plazas were closed for pedestrian availability.
Absolutely.
And the question starts to become, what, if you've seen, there's been articles on some of the arcade areas in Midtown, the enclosed arcades. If you look at, articles that recently in the paper, that restaurants look at those as their ideal opportunities to have indoor-outdoor seating. So when you take a look at pedestrian plazas and the potential goal of congestion pricing to reduce the amount of cars that are on the street, we could have a lot more pedestrian plazas coming into community.
No, I'm asking because we're actually designing one between south of Times Square on Broadway between 38th and 40th. And this came up with the bid, the garment district bid there, because they were concerned about, well, what came up was not wanting to have kiosks there to compete with the people who are renting, the tenants of the buildings. But we didn't discuss like them having outdoor dining with like, you're talking about with like outdoor sheds and everything? No, but
Or
you know,
even outdoor dining, meaning being able to extend out beyond the sidewalk, because now sidewalk and road bed,
so,
and how that will work. Currently, there are no rules and regs set up for it. DOT did affirm that currently it's illegal, but they are going to be looking at it eventually. So it's a question of conversation that we are looking at our public spaces, right? This is public land, it's public streets. What do we want on them? Do you want to say, yes, private seating is allowed? Okay, if private seating is allowed, how much? If you look at Bogardus, Bogardus has a kiosk and it's all free public seating, right?
yeah, no,
Or if you look at, if you compare Bogardus to what was proposed on Thames Street by the potential, if that happens, it's all private seating
right.
for existing restaurants that they are putting on there, and what's the limit? Is it just that you need to have the clear path that DOT assigns of the 8 foot for the plane? Or do we want to say as a community, this is public space, we would like to see
It stays.
public, some level of public
The
seating.
counter to that, though, is that public, I assume, is that the public space is being monetized, which goes back into city services. That's the part.
Yes and no.
No.
So the plaza operator is the one who takes up it depends. Bogardus was transformed by DOT, right? It was transformed by DOT, but it is now managed by the organization,
That
by
means
Friends of
the
Bogardus, who already had managed that little garden. But that was a DOT. In other places, the person who has been paying for it is sometimes the bid, right? And then the bid puts down money, and yes, they're gonna wanna monetize what comes back in some manner. What Laura's saying is the bid said they didn't want kiosks because the people who pay for the bid, which are the real estate
Landlords.
community and the landlords, want their space to be protected so that there is no additional F&B. I'm sure that they would love to see additional seating that supports other, cafes in the neighborhood for to-go workers, but they don't want to see a kiosk in there that
So-
is.
I'll tell you one space that works really well downtown, and it's, I think it works well, is near Susan's house. Like behind what was the Goldman Sachs building, 85 Broad,
Mhm.
where do you know what I'm talking about? There's that plaza there. Yeah, well,
No.
it's between 85 Broad and Stone Street. There are like these square plant, it's near
Yeah.
Pan Quotidian.
Yeah, I ate lunch there.
Right,
You're talking about.
so it's like it's not, I don't think it's a DMT plaza, I think it's like more like a
We're talking
bonus.
about like where the steps are.
We're
Yes.
Maiden, at the bottom of Maiden Lane?
No,
No.
no, the bottom of the stone that goes over to Pearl, that goes over to
20
Pearl.
No.
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 Google 85 Drive, and then
The
it's
archaeological
on
remnants.
the other side.
Yes, yes, exactly.
So that's, that's Quincy
Ladder,
Plaza,
right?
between Water and Pearl.
Okay, so what works well there is you can buy your food from any number of places and then sit where you can get a seat. So the outdoor space is serving the restaurants, but it's free open public space.
Yeah.
But
And
just one block, because then we.
It's just like a really.
But Stone
Stone Street is all related to each restaurant.
is a different thing, but what I'm saying is, I think the idea of keeping those spaces need to be kept flexible. They can have movable tables and chairs that somebody manages to put out, and, which is like what happens at Bogardus right now. It's perfect, you can buy your lunch anywhere in Tribeca and eat it there.
Yeah, LPQ doesn't care where you buy your food. They let you just sit.
Yeah, LPQ, you can sit there, it's very nice.
And then there's like the cute
Another
planter seats.
And you, what?
And another rebranded.
I just can't say the acronym, but they do have LPQ on it.
We
but I
call
also
it
can't
LPQ.
say the,
Well,
I don't even.
Anyway, but I think that
You're
that's.
talking about this area.
No.
No.
No,
It's
not
okay.
at all.
You want me to come and find it?
Literally just the landing, the
It's,
T.
it's the back of 85 Broad.
No.
It's
No,
over there.
it's
You gotta
different.
get over to 85.
You've got to go further south.
Not this area.
Keep it
It's-
up.
No.
No.
Where's that?
Now,
It's,
you go to Google
That's
Maps,
further down.
it's,
Yeah.
it's the T where Stone Street meets.
No.
Go further left.
Towards,
Yeah,
if you like walk all the way
There,
over
keep
there.
going there.
and then
You're
go
gonna
down
run there.
there. That's what
All-
she's talking.
See that to the left and
No.
then over.
No.
There's
To the
the
right,
back,
there, that,
yeah.
Right, and then to the right, go a little more to the right, there.
There.
Okay, you see that red awning? That's like
Yeah.
Chinese or something, and then there's like, all those are restaurants. And then you can sit on those stone blocks, and you can sit on that wall. And
This
you
is
can
part
sit-
of all of Quincy Slip. This
Okay,
whole.
okay. So, but I mean, the point is that it could easily, just as easily be a
It's
plaza.
centralized seating.
It's like open seating for all those
So I
restaurants.
think,
And Quintus.
to the point, I think that's what we are shooting for.
Right,
The fear that we have is what they're proposing at Thames, which they're like, you have to buy
That,
something.
that owner wanted to own the whole fucking street,
Right.
pardon my language. Wanted to own the whole street and put
Does
everything
it
out.
mean a lot to you?
Pardon me? And look at make it nice.
Said he could make it nice.
He was gonna make it
You gotta
nice.
pay to sit down.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I mean, I've had a
lot more seating.
One more streets.
I've heard
Yeah.
a lot.
So
Here's people.
So
seeing food.
here's the discussion that we want to think about, and it's a proposal. We know when you look at a place like that, what we want for public streets, right? Right now, our roadbed is public area that is being rented to the restaurant industry. That's it, and it is privatized, period. We argue for POPs and public space in Lower Manhattan more than anything else because we don't have a ton of it. This could be an amazing opportunity if congestion pricing does what it does and if the placards go away, that we can turn some pedestrian streets, some streets into pedestrian plazas. My summation on this is, what do we want there? I think we want planters and we want public seating and we want a park-like plaza, like what we were talking about over here, or like Bogardus, if it needs a kiosk to support it, great. But what I don't think Community Board One was looking for was to replicate Stone Street in every
No,
club.
no way.
And that each neighborhood should have its
No, no.
own identity. Part of the thing that's so
No.
beautiful, I think, of course, I'm biased in Bogardus, is they have that cool clock there. It's very representational. It's got a modern spin of a kiosk there. Everything
No, it's
kind
very-
of works.
But you don't want Stone Street and you don't control it after a while.
So then I think we need to start to have a conversation and start to have a look at what do we want? Do we want to say never fully private? Can't be 100%, can't be 50%, has to be majority public seating. Let's find a positive spin that says Community Board One for whatever we want on plazas and pedestrian plazas, right?
Majority public. That's what I would vote for.
I mean, they're really, we want them to be oases down here, really. I think they need to be,
I
you
think
know,
it needs to be
places that
more.
55, 45.
But I just think it should be, what happens is it gets encroached. If Alice were here, I would have
Biggest protest.
she would say there are places where we had other title and they took it over.
He's not
Sharon, they took it over. And nobody wants to go sit there because the restaurant is all there and you don't
Right.
feel comfortable.
It
That's,
doesn't sound like anybody's saying there should be these outdoor dining here. No,
Right.
nobody in the
No,
room
I
is.
mean, I think that outdoor dining is an important part of what we do, but when we look at outdoor dining, I think of a kiosk and free public seating as part of it.
Right, I
right,
think
that's
everybody's
not-
agreeing with you.
Yeah, well, it would be a little bit like how Times Square has like the tables and chairs and you just sit at it.
Yeah.
And you eat, and then you get up and you leave.
Right.
Yes.
You could do that. There's no partitioning, there's no
I like that, yeah.
preventing people from sitting down.
It's like
and
an outdoor airport, it's like an outdoor version of the airport terminal, not to use
like
an ugly, depressing analogy, but it is like that.
It's like
So-
Right.
Yeah, between 23rd and 21st Street, 22nd, yeah. That Marcus the Jack on the outside.
Flat out. You're talking about on Fifth Avenue,
They
right?
have two kiosks there, by the way.
Yeah, but Fifth
They
Avenue,
do.
Fifth Avenue is closer. I think.
But on one side, but then on the other side, it's just.
But anyway,
it's like-
anybody can sit there. It's not
Yeah.
proprietary.
No,
it's
but
the
sit
point.
there.
Has anybody been on, I'm sorry, that's not Fifth Avenue, it's Broadway. Has anybody been on Broadway between 25th
Yeah, over by,
Street to 32nd Street, give or take?
Yeah.
Yeah,
They basically took out the roadway, they painted
it's a shared street.
well, but there's no, not sure with the cars, really. It's
Well,
shared
they're,
with
they're
bikes.
trying to pedestrianize all of Broadway, basically, like,
Mm.
like our 2 blocks that we're doing is just part of, you know, this
Yeah,
whole
it has
system of making it these like,
From
this
40
street of
down.
It's
plazas.
bas- It's
There
basically.
will be some vehicular.
Let me ask you,
But it
because
doesn't
you're working
look
on
like-
one that will have outdoor dining.
Out in
No.
the same way.
It will have outdoor seating.
It will have outdoor dining by the landlords
No.
or the restaurants that are
No.
attached to the
No.
buildings,
No.
just not in the street.
No, no.
And explain that, because if I'm in the landlord's building and I could
It just
do,
means that if there's movable, if there's tables and chairs or built-in benches like at Bogartis, that people can take their food. They can go to McDonald's, get their food and eat it outside.
but you said that he didn't want kiosks because.
They don't want a kiosk like Bogartis has that's gonna compete with a restaurant
in
that's
their
in,
building.
that's in, like, they don't wanna compete with
The
their
restaurants could
tenants.
do sidewalk seating, can't they?
I don't know, maybe they can on what is mapped as sidewalk, but not as what is mapped as the street.
Yeah, roadbed.
The roadbed cannot have restaurant seating.
I think that's,
So either all the way park, all the way, this in between to me is the worst of all.
well, I think there's a point to be made by you, on that. I think it's I mean, I think that there's something, and it's so confusing when you're out there. I like the idea of the kiosk and people being able to sit out, but, and the restaurant doesn't want it because it takes away from its
Both
business.
feels like full park.
Yes,
It is a full
basically.
park. And actually, the restaurant there is it's like a satellite of a local. of the
Yes.
place.
Oh, that-
So, I mean,
No,
Yeah.
Yeah, they,
no, it's a big
No.
place.
no.
Yeah, it's been Benito- it changed. It used to be the bagel place.
Oh,
but
it's
now-
now?
What's
The Tribeca.
Mary Ann's or something?
Oh, well, okay.
yeah.
Okay, but
big
anyway, I mean, I don't know what the rules are, like if you, so on Broadway, like, let's say that Broadway stayed open to cars and you wanted to put some outdoor seats on the sidewalk, you would have to get a sidewalk permit. Right, just for that sidewalk.
If you are a restaurateur, you can
Yeah.
apply for a sidewalk permit, yes.
Right, so the question is, when Broadway becomes a plot, when the street becomes pedestrianized and made into this park-like landscape, can you still apply for a sidewalk permit for the sidewalk?
Yeah,
And how do we feel about that? I think you should still be able to.
Yeah,
yeah, but the question starts to become, should you be able to extend beyond the
I
street?
don't know, I say no. I would say no. What I would
too, but they're
Me
not.
too.
No, they're not going to. They're
But,
just
but
gonna-
isn't it our job to
Wait.
say, as a community board to say that what we want? I mean, that's what we're talking about.
That's what
We
we're
say
talking
that
about,
we
is trying
want
to
what
look at
you're
an
saying.
advocacy
Well,
role.
meant to get the bike kiosk anyway.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Oh, that's our role.
I think you're on the right
And a
track.
bite
I think
tonight.
most people would agree with
No,
you.
no, see.
Because New York is so, like, we need those spaces for,
Spaces.
it's like.
We need those spaces to be safe because we'll be killed by the bikes, pardon me.
So, so let's take this back a bit. So now I'm gonna say we're talking about a street that doesn't, and because this is Lower Manhattan in the historic district, it's gonna become a pedestrian plaza. It does not have sidewalks that are wide enough for the restaurant to be able to have a sidewalk cafe. So they'd kind of like to have some roadbed seating right there.
Like the whole one in.
Right? So,
I don't know.
so I think,
asking
is it
this-
sidewalk and roadbed, sidewalk or roadbed?
I-
If you can have sidewalk with clear
Well,
path.
I mean, we can make regulations based on size and things like that.
Can I say, I mean, yes, we need open space. And yes, being more bike centric and less car oriented, I think is a great thing.
In
But
theory.
we're talking about putting these monstrosity garbage cans in the street. We're talking about putting dining in the street. We're talking about putting all this stuff in the street. Has anybody been in a car? It's so hard to get
Oh, it's terrible.
anywhere here.
I have to ride my broomstick.
Solve it.
Possible.
10-15%.
Give me a broomstick, Susan.
I mean,
Teach me what it
there's a
is.
balance. What?
All right.
You mean driving?
It's hard.
If you have to, I don't take a car very often, but if you need to.
Only
it's
certain
not to
streets
get
we
anywhere.
go.
Oh, I take them all.
Only certain streets we go.
He goes up to walk his dog.
Unfortunately, somewhere.
I mean, what Tammy listed here, these are existing clauses, so that is not, we're not asking.
We're not,
But she's
but I'm
talking
using
future.
the existing clauses as a sample of what we like and what we don't
Yeah,
like, what
so-
we want to see as we look forward to pedestrian
I'm
plazas
agreeing
in
with
more
you.
streets.
You want me to make a motion?
Wait, I just want to understand something. For example, you want sidewalk, you get sidewalk. You don't get roadbed. I don't think you get both things.
Right.
I just don't. I think it's just overtaking us.
They do.
I know they do, but I'm saying you shouldn't.
You should.
No,
I think we,
Because
I mean,
that's the question. It's public space that you're taking.
you're
And
taking
yes, they're
space.
paying for it. So if you have a
It's their
plaza
space too.
partner, the plaza partner needs to recoup their money. But what we're trying to say is it is still at the base root of, no matter who's managing it, right? It's public space and we want more public use, less private use.
well, also presumably the plaza partner is recouping their money by being able to rent their offices and things for more money because of the amenity of the space if it's well designed.
anybody ever?
Yeah.
But yes, as a whole.
So can we, if we're going to have more seating, we don't hang out, we can have more eaters, people devouring foods, it means they need to get, like, they're gonna wanna poop somewhere. We gotta,
Gonna want what?
they're going to.
Public restrooms.
Bathrooms.
Public
And the
restrooms
restaurant, we need.
and the restaurant.
Yeah, and I feel like if there's some way we can, you know,
Advocate
a
for
little
more.
bit give and take here, like if
Advocate
Vegas
if we want
space,
public-
we need.
Yeah,
to-
I don't have any trouble with that.
They're gonna feed more people and they need to allow more people.
You won't get.
So here's one thing, instead of maybe doing a resolution tonight, I can make a nice presentation for next month with pictures of folk artists. I'm gonna ask, somebody to send me good pictures next time they're up in Times Square, right? Pictures of some of the closed streets and what's on them, and then we will really do what we want, which it sounds like a majority,
Here,
of public space.
public access, public space.
Okay, which includes free seating and includes, planters
On both sides of 20.
and design. Kiosks are okay.
That's nice.
And that if you are a vendor, if it's a real street, you either get sidewalk with clear path, or you get roadbed, but you don't get both.
Correct. That's what I would vote. for.
So that would be, so you could walk down the street, there'd be some seats in the street, right? You have to leave a clear path. On the sidewalk, if you have sidewalk seating.
Well, that's like from 23rd down is it Broadway or whatever
Yeah.
it is down there?
Cause they cross over.
That, yeah.
That whole Flatiron area by
That-
23rd Street, they
Oh,
got
yeah.
Those are proprietary seating, there's not,
No,
that's open, so
Yeah.
why,
But as you go north from there, it becomes proprietary.
No.
100%
where?
where?
on
from the 30s.
Broadway from 25th
6?
or 6th to 32nd or so.
Outside Duncan Hall is public seating, not private.
That's higher up.
I
The
guess
old
that's-
Flatiron
Yeah.
district.
Leave the neighborhood.
I'm trying
I
to
have a
think.
suggestion. Who put this, are we doing this because it's something DOT is trying to do?
Yeah.
We're starting a conversation because we are in the very beginning of outdoor dining. We have had,
Betty has her hand up.
Betty, please, go ahead.
Originally, when I put my hand up, we were talking about what we want on these spaces. And then luckily you went to Broadway where you're talking about multiple streets, multiple blocks worth of stretch. Like bathrooms is what I want. I think that the partner would be nice if they considered, I don't care if it's a storefront that they use, I don't care if it's something
Amen.
movable they put on the
Yeah.
bathrooms.
Yep, I've got that on here, public restrooms, and we can say that we don't care if it's a storefront or freestanding.
Well,
Yeah, so just the access.
Yeah,
If it's
And
freestanding,
also,
it's gotta
Betty,
be
I have to
accessible.
say that I know that the rule is about accessibility, and it's on the corners, but I gotta say, if you're gonna do a pedestrian plaza and it's gonna be a whole street, why aren't we looking at having curb cuts in the middle of the street? Why are you at, and I don't know how you feel about that, but that's a question that I would ask. Is that, should there be multiple curb
Well,
cuts?
yes, maybe if it's the block of a certain length, there should be, so
Wait.
that people
Maybe they
can.
bring-
but they're raising, like what we're doing on Broadway is we're raising the street, there won't be a curb.
Like what they did at Bogardus.
And there won't be.
Right.
Yeah, there won't be a curb.
I think the issue is putting, there should be a maximal distance of access between the sidewalk and the street level. If there's no difference, then that's great, the access point's easily met. If there is a curb and there is a level difference, then yes, there should be a certain distance that's reasonable and becomes unreasonable at some point.
I mean, that's the main reason I think why, like, these things start off as like the painted sidewalk, like near Whitehall, is because it's so expensive to raise the street bed, you have to change the drainage. But once they commit to that, like on these 2 blocks of Broadway, then you get this, like, facade to facade level space, which is quite nice because it's universally accessible.
But the
Well-
problem that we are going to face is
Here.
what is the definition, once you raise the sidewalk, of roadbed dining versus sidewalk? Does that all become sidewalk cafe?
No,
Well,
I'm
but
saying,
also-
no, but wait, hold on, the sidewalk.
The rules have not been made yet.
Tammy, well, wait a second. The sidewalk is still designated the sidewalk and is subject to sidewalk regulations with what we're doing on Broadway, which is with DOT. So I think that is a viable precedent here.
I'm not sure that's actually true. When the plaza rules are put in place, it's a plaza and that's on the plaza list. It's a plaza.
The space may be called a plaza, but the sidewalk still,
The DOT is going to treat it as a plaza.
Even Bogardus, though, there's a sidewalk and then there's a plaza.
yeah, there is a sidewalk.
Sidewalk between the
Like
trees.
by
and
where
the-
King's was, and they still have the trees.
It's not
My
wide.
recommendation
small.
is that we
Yeah.
get.
Betty is on, because that's, I hate to say it, each block tends to be somewhat different, I think, and they don't have that rule set yet. But what we're looking at is the potential definition of a removal if it's at grade of where the sidewalk ends and the street begins. And that's an unknown at this point.
Correct.
But what we do know is the entire thing, including the sidewalk, is considered part of the plaza when it's at grade.
Okay, so, okay, okay, I mean, one thing we could do is ask somebody from the DOT Plaza group. Because they're very knowledgeable.
Do you know what the answer was?
No,
Those
No,
rules are not
that's
set
just-
yet. I asked,
okay, all right, so, okay.
which was frustrating to me, that like, we have no rules set yet.
Well, I mean, what's interesting is like, the bonus plaza regulations, there's all these rules that are based on its size. Right? Like if it's this size, you have to have this many trees. If it's that size, you have to have this, da, da, da. So I think we could do the same thing, like if one of these things is really tiny, then maybe it's different than if it's really expansive. Again, in our situation, I don't think any of these are expansive.
And I think that's part of the conversation that we need to take a look at is size and street, right? And maybe we come up with a conversation that we have on that.
But I don't think those outdoor sheds should be anywhere in the plazas.
Gotham Park Plaza,
I
It is a plaza. Gotham Park is-
so that would be an expansive one. Give it one.
Do we want to say anything about, maybe think of this like the food carts are being around?
That's different.
Uh, It's different, but I think that a food cart can be in a plaza.
Yeah, that'd be sweet.
Many food carts can be there. I can't imagine that
They are.
I think it's up to the plaza. You know what? That's a good question for Rosa.
I don't think it's up to the plaza.
I think it's up to the plaza partner who manages the space.
You think so?
I don't
was
know.
Thinking of,
Becky, do you know?
Yeah.
like the Helmsley Spear building downtown.
That's a Pops. That's different.
Mm.
So, you know, one of the problems is this is a street vendor issue. They're not necessarily banned, but the question is, are they there legally or illegally? So if you're talking about people you've seen, we don't know.
It's a good question that we can research. Thank you, Betty. We should ask the street vendor project about where they're allowed to permit in terms of pedestrian plazas. It's a great question.
This would make a great like AIA or ASLA forum.
Wouldn't that?
It's like really should be in the public debate.
I agree 100%, Laura, and I'd be happy to help get that done.
Okay, let's do that.
Because
Yeah.
there is no way, if we don't have this as a larger public
It
discussion,
has to be a large public discussion.
there is no way that the public will not lose
Okay.
on the potential of selling
So-
off the real estate in New York
Okay,
City.
so, all right, I'll help you do that.
Okay.
Tammy, can I add if you want to know about the street vendors, by all means, go to the street vendor project, but go to the Department of Sanitation since they are the enforcement unit.
For street vendors?
Oh, street vendors, correct.
Isn't that, thank you.
Yeah, Betty, I think you might be helping me on that side. All right, I think that's great. I'm really excited for this. It was meant to have an initial discussion so we can truly get going the topic and work on
This is
advocacy.
a really
Yeah.
good topic.
It is,
It's
it's a great
for
topic.
us, and we do, you're right, we have a big list of these.
And then we'll get another kiosk. Yeah,
Listen,
we voted down.
if it was, I love walking around other cities, and one of the things I love about walking around other cities is they are so smart on how they green their cities and the value of public space being public.
We don't have.
It's, I feel like New York City is turning into a gift shop on every corner, right? And if it's not a gift shop, it's a restaurant. It's a pay on every corner. It's like,
Or illegal cannabis.
pick your poison. But it's the difference between going through someplace that respects what public is supposed to be, public art, public space. I mean, I'd like to take a High Line and use that as an example in a way of what our public plaza should be. Someplace beautiful that you can walk, that you can manage.
So far, I think Bogartis is that.
Bogartis is a great example, and I was hella not happy about them closing off my left turn, but it is
Yeah.
fantastic.
No, I think many of these places that you listed are very good, and I'm hoping Barnett Newman will be one of them.
Exactly.
To the point of your earlier question, one of the reasons why we're having this discussion is around the Thames Street because of what they want to, what they want to do.
It's like such a weird street. I don't even understand how they.
Listen, it'll be beautiful when it's finally done. I think it will have a great point, but I do think we need to be on record. We may go back and be on record specifically about that, but I think for the wider discussion, it was about to see what we think and really envision when congestion pricing does what it's supposed to do, when we have less placards, there's more opportunities on our little streets and little places that will be largely unused to look at pedestrian plazas there.
Devil's advocate though, congestion pricing at its rate is, and I support it, it's about 17% reduction, 15%. I mean, it's not,
Is it?
yeah, we're gonna need, probably gonna need the street. I mean,
I don't discount that, and at this point, I now know that 80
Oh,
feet
Carrie
is worth
has her
15.
hand up.
Carrie. And by the way, 80 feet is worth $15. That's what I learned.
80 feet of,
What?
80 feet of real estate downtown is worth $15. You get off the Brooklyn Bridge to go southbound on the FDR, you will be considered coming in the zone and pay $15.
Is Carrie's hand still up?
It's ready.
Yeah, thanks, Laura. I was trying to, it goes back a while, but I was on the board. I was part of the process with Tori in closing Bogardus and getting that kiosk there. And I think there's a big difference between bids and small plaza partners that need kiosk revenue in order to underwrite the maintenance of the park and the plaza. So I think there's a real distinction that needs to be made between bids and the smaller sort of garden plaza partners. That was the first thing. And then the other thing is that with the sidewalk versus roadbed use, I just wonder whether or not, is this transportation area? Like, is this executive committee? Should I put this on my calendar? I'm on the transportation committee, but is this executive is going to run this project, or is transportation? How does that work?
This is, Carrie, we can certainly let you know, just kind of keep in touch. Unfortunately, this topic bridges
Everything.
3 different committees
Three or
to
four.
4. It
Yeah.
bridges transportation, it bridges licensing, which is outdoor dining,
Quality of
and
life.
quality of life. And it also bridges, depending on what happens to the street vendor project, DSNY quality of life. So, and at the overall arching of it, it's really a land use discussion of how we want our public streets, not involved with transportation, but what is the usage of what we want on our public streets once they're no longer car-based, right?
Understood,
You know,
understood. The reason I raise it, Tammy, is not to try and move it out into one particular thing. I understand it, how it it's intersectional, but we did some work during the pandemic when the outdoor dining was first started. And there was a rubric that we tried to create about maximizing public benefit, that any of these spaces that were put in the roadbed had to maximize public benefit. And there was a rubric that, I don't know if it was Jess or it was somebody before Jess, Betty. I'm sorry, I'm forgetting his name. But anyway,
Michael Francor.
Yes, Michael Francor. And he put together this rubric where we had these various aspects as a guidance. So I don't know if Betty can unearth that, but I think it might be helpful to this project. And I'm happy to lend a hand.
We can certainly take a look at that. That's always great for background, but one of the questions that I would tell you, I think public benefit does not mean pay to play.
No.
So that is the question for what is public benefit. You look at Bogardus, it has incredible public benefit because it has free seating. And you don't have to pay to play to be there. You don't have to buy at the kiosk. You can, but you don't have to.
You can bring your own.
You can bring your own. Most of our public plazas, you can bring your own. The conversations that will come up from private plaza partners that are not bids necessarily. You know, the bids want to support the landlords who support them. But anyone who is not a bid and who is a private operator of the space, like for example, if the Fed Reserve Bank, which operates the Gouverneurs Lane one, the plaza rather, outside the Fed Reserve, over on William between Liberty and Maiden, said, you know what? We now have 3 restaurants in our bank level, on the ground level. Those are the only ones we want in the plaza. What's the downside to that? There's no more public seating and now it's just private. Right? Is that a public benefit? Is that public usage? Where it's, you have to pay to be able to sit in the space? You know,
Right. I think you can get to a point where you can define what what we think public benefit is, and that's the work, I guess, that this group will do. It's just there are a few factors that we'd already sort of identified, and I'll try and unearth it and I'll send it to you so that, you know,
That'd
we
be
can
awesome.
move along.
Yeah, that'd be great. And that's part of the conversations that I think need to be really big, because when we're taking a look at what public is and the way we transform our city, we should be thinking holistically. And I think putting pedestrians first, no offense to the bicyclists, but I think pedestrians need to have a greater priority, especially in these spaces.
Correct. And then, of course, resiliency as well. So, you know, there's need for green places.
Green is really important,
Yeah.
but, you know, like the Thames example doesn't get sunlight, does it?
No.
You know,
No.
it's sloped, it really is not a place where you would want.
Great lights.
Yeah, but you know, I mean,
It
like,
gets sunlight, not a lot.
okay, all I'm saying is, I think that all these, it's maybe more nuanced than what we're trying to say, because not all these places are equal. For example, in the bonus plaza program, you cannot even put a bonus plaza if it doesn't get, if it's facing north, for example, like part of the bonus plaza has to face south. So I mean, I'm just saying the Thames project is not as high value of a spot as these other locations. Like Bogart is like open and it's got, trees can grow there and.
But when you look at Thames Street,
Because in terms of access and people getting from one
It's more
point to
than
the
just
other,
that.
because
I
it's
wouldn't
a
want it
really,
there.
it's
It's
a
so dark.
thoroughfare for
it
people.
won't be dark because they have plenty of lights, but
Mm.
beyond
Yeah.
that, you know, what else could be there? Could art be on that street? Could, you could,
Cars really.
but you could, you know, what else could be on the street when you're looking at it? What else is a public benefit? You could have planters that are there. I mean,
No,
if we're
it's
able,
dark though. I don't know. I just think,
Where's the garbage go? The garbage bins, there's always bins.
look, I don't,
Yeah,
I don't want to be, just
you
say.
could, there are ways to be able to do it, right? When you take a look at everything that happens. And there are other public benefits, seating, music, art. I mean, there's so many things. Right now, we're limiting all of our public space to restaurants. That's it. If you're a restaurant or bar, you get access to a public space, you know, an ice cream store or something. What about art stores? What about other things? What about opportunities for other retailers to be able to do anything exterior that would catch on? Right? I can understand why,
Places.
you know, just opening up the idea to what is public benefit for other industries as well. I mean, there has to be an opportunity that we drive what's allowed on the public
Okay,
space.
so
Anyway, we'll come back to this again.
Okay.
You and I will work on seeing if we can get a larger discussion
yeah, okay.
going, and I think that would be great. And using a lot of the models from all around the city would be really
Well,
helpful.
I think we should look at models from around the world, actually. I mean, I'm thinking of some small towns in Europe where they managed to have the plaza and the restaurants.
Even Paris.
Yeah, no, I'm
Really?
thinking, that's what I was thinking of, like Provence, where you have, but there's still not those outdoor ugly sheds. you know.
Nothing. Paris doesn't have anything like that.
You just have a few seats. I think there's lots of options. Okay,
Yep.
we done?
Okay?
No,
So,
we still got
committee-
committee report.
Committee reports and resolutions. Lucy needs me to remind everybody that the resolutions are due tomorrow by noon. If your
Did you
meeting
read
was
them?
last week or
I didn't
before
either.
Wednesday.
She just sent them today.
I guess we don't
Okay.
have any.
So for,
I don't think that
I'll
there's
pull up the
anything.
agendas and I will get that going. The other thing is, I hope you're enjoying the seats around the table. We are no longer using the large black seats. There's been a movement from the office team to switch to these smaller seats.
I'm happy.
I like
but
my seat.
I like my seat.
Yeah.
But I'm not as tall as you, Brendan, or Eric.
So, exactly, we've got some tall people. So I thought arms are a yes versus no arms.
I like arms.
Arms, the old chair.
Which
Yeah.
ones?
No, but the black.
The black,
These sit
Oh,
in those.
those ones don't have arms.
the ones, all right.
Yeah, the guests don't get arms.
So we're gonna do no arms, and unfortunately, the members of the public won't have arms on the sides, it'll allow us to fit more people. And then I said, because these struck me crazy about sliding back and forth wheels, that's me.
But I don't
I
care,
have-
but that's
I
fine.
have carpet slides on the city, men's slide.
They'll work for about 6 months and then they'll stop doing that. I actually think I'm fine and comfortable, even though I really had a lot of fun giving Zach a hard time about
You
it
had a lot of
yesterday.
opinions yesterday.
I was just gonna like, where are my chairs?
But definitely in person, we haven't even been here for a long night tonight.
That's the problem.
Well, you're tall.
His legs should go numb, and then what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
We'll give him, we'll,
CB1 pads. Everyone gets a complimentary CB1 butt pad.
Razor butt pad. Yeah, I mean, there's this like hard bar right here that my poor little sit bones are getting squashed on.
all right,
You
whatever.
guys, I mean,
There's a
seriously,
bar right here.
wheels or no wheels? I said yes to wheels, it drives me crazy.
I don't mind wheels, that's
I mean,
fine.
some of us
Wheels.
don't.
Wheels will make them a little taller.
Get in the way of each other though.
I'm trying to eat the food.
No, they don't, because the wheels are gonna be, it's not like it's gotta. All right, so for transportation, Betty, please, if we can have your resolutions for Battery Park City, we need your resolutions. Land use, we have one, we'll need that, and
Excuse me, you need transportation? I sent them 2 days after my meeting.
awesome, thank you, Betty. I'm just checking, I'm just rolling through the agendas.
I didn't confer with Patrick, so.
Okay, please confer with Patrick, we'd like to have
I
the
was
resolutions
never
by
a perfect
Friday.
student, trust me.
Today's the 18th, which means I'm gonna bother licensing, if you can work on those, please.
Well,
Here's the
just
nice,
gotta-
here's the nice thing. Next week, because of the holiday, we don't have any meetings, so there's a little bit of an inordinate break, but also will be one person down for the office team for a week's vacation. So anybody who can submit their resolutions by Friday would be greatly appreciated. For everybody else, they have until Wednesday next week, which includes licensing,
Okay,
EPC, and quality. Did you do one on, yeah, did you do one for 225 Broadway?
Wednesday.
Okay, so, we're gonna go around the table for committee reports. Vicky's going first because she wanted to voice her concerns.
Thank you, Tammy. I wanted to speak to you all tonight because I think this is a ongoing issue between the Community Board and Landmark Preservation Commission. As you all know, and as Jason and I pointed last week, it's a highly technical committee when we try to, coincide our responses and concerns with Landmark Preservation Commission. It seems that based on all the work that we did, just as an example of many differences, but this one really got me. All the work that we did in our discussions in committee and at the monthly meeting over the bike kiosk, it seems that our recommendation was not taken seriously at all. In fact, it was approved, I think 7-1 or 8-1. And my concern here, 7-1. My concern here is that we really need to reach out to our elected officials who reach out to professionals and ask us to come and join the community board and contribute all our time and professional advice. And yet, majority of time, we're not taken seriously. This kiosk thing, I was laughing, Tammy, when you said public space, this is exactly what we had in mind. You were referring to it in another context, but exactly as a public space, our space around City Hall is a civic space. It has, centuries of study of why these spaces are left open and unassigned to individual needs, communities, people's businesses. So we worked at it. We made our recommendation. It was completely ignored. I want to know, I know in the past we've had our differences and people like Roger have told me that they have taken this up. Sarah Carroll is really troublesome. I personally have heard her give introductions to issues where you can tell if you're in architecture, she's giving you exactly the response she expects you to get. And I found that completely unacceptable. I wanted to know what you all thought and whether we as community board can do something, write letters and request that, you know, greater heed is taken for the advice that we give on behalf of the community. Thank you, Tammy.
I think it's a topic that you can do in landmarks that has been
Okay.
before.
Sorry, I have a
That-
hard time hearing you.
That's okay. I think it's a conversation that can be done in landmarks. I think we've called for removal of commissioners before, and replacements. We've put our stake out there, and if we have, a lot of conversation and thought about that, we can certainly do that. Unfortunately, commissioner appointments are done by the mayor's office.
That's really
And-
unfortunate, yeah. It
And
shouldn't be
so-
taught like that. It should be completely nonpartisan and based on many other qualifications. Then the mayor gets to know your effort because your effort may not necessarily amount to anything. So I know the effort, I know the appointment, and thank you, Tammy. I completely think we need a revised method of appointing them. And they're there far too long.
Vicky, I think you should have this discussion at the landmarks committee meeting and make your recommendations. I mean, so we stick a nail or yell at somebody. It'd be great to have a wider representation of the architecture community on the commissioners. Go ahead.
For something like this issue, which was landmarks focused, but ultimately a much bigger issue for the community. I mean, what, if anything, because, I
We
was
should have been working with the Parks Department before they got there. Parks Department should have come to us. They said they notified us, but it was adaptive reuse. What they notified us and what it ended up being was totally different. Quite frankly, we asked for a meeting with City Hall. We are hoping that City Hall says yes. We are hoping that even if landmarks approved it, it's not necessarily going to be there. It is in a pedestrian way without a bike lane there.
Well, the funny thing is the bike lane is a sidewalk, because that's the one place you're actually allowed to ride on the sidewalk because there aren't bike lanes. Like it says somewhere, there's signage somewhere that you can actually ride on the sidewalk.
On the side.
The point is that we made our resolution
Down the
and we
street.
were ignored.
well, but
Through the park.
I guess what I'm getting at, Vicky, is,
But then they take one side.
and this is I mean, look, it was presented at that location by the senior senator of New York. It was the mayor, and then,
Because
the
he
landmark.
He's
funded it.
funding it. It's
Right.
money.
So the way it came through is because Senator Schumer funded it. The only way that they could figure the fastest way to get it done was they think through the unused parks kiosks. So it was a determination not for right fit, but for speed.
Right.
And
so-
using the money.
and
Yes.
using the money. So they want to use the money and they want to get it done quickly. And the Parks Department didn't feel that they could do adaptive reuse because it would be too expensive. So it was just easier to knock it all down. That's what they said. And it's
I just want to say.
it's unfortunate. It was a bigger discussion that should have had it.
Right.
I think they short-shrifted the Workers' Justice Project. I think they short-shrifted the pedestrians in the community and anybody who walks and protests in that area. I think they all got short-shrifted, and I think it all works potentially until somebody gets run over by a bicyclist on that sidewalk.
Right.
But Tammy, I just want to conclude, I just want to say that, again, my point is that we as a community board of volunteers and professionals work really hard. Seems that our recommendations are not seriously taken seriously, even 50%, let alone more, and that's really not okay.
We're not the only board that feels that way, trust me. There's been a board, one of the uptown boards has been trying to get one of the old, houses on with the, what do they call those, Susan? Where they used to, the old houses in New York where the Underground Railroad ran and they would, hide people in. There's one of
Yes.
the original, there's one of the original houses up uptown.
Downtown.
And one of the Manhattan boards has applied 3 times to get it landmarked.
Oh, yes, yes.
And they can't, so they're trying again. But that's 3 times for a piece of history. Just saying.
I think
Alright,
we have to
next.
speak up more and
Okay.
get our foot down.
Vicky, next, Susan.
I think we're pretty uncontroversial for a change. I think it is awesome. Francis and I are floored, but there's no big deal so far. Except my only complaint is that they're all asking for waivers for 30-day notices on renewal, and we're gonna cut them out. We're gonna change it, because it's people not paying
They're
attention.
not.
Okay. Laura, from land use, anything?
Yeah, we have, what is it, 88 Pine Street, the IMK building with the, you know what I'm talking about, the white steel grid. They want to put in handicap accessible doors, and they're claiming the only way to do that is to go out into the plaza space. And they didn't build a very good case for it, so
What's the address?
82?
88 Pine. Yeah, it's actually on Water Street.
So did you guys do a negative resolution?
We're going to.
Okay, awesome.
It's on water and
Fine. It's at the corner there. White-
Oh, I know which one, yeah.
Eric, anything from Battery Park City?
We have a resolution for Wagner Park in the commercial space that they're designing. They wanted to know what opinions we had when it came to bathrooms and how they should lay out the space and food types. And then we talked about
Wait, where?
in Wagner
The
Park.
Wagner Park Pavilion,
The
the new building.
What are they asking?
It's gonna be a
See the
food
street?
space, and they wanted to know our opinion on bathrooms, public, and
That's one
then
of our resolutions.
public bathrooms, and then
Things.
bathrooms in the food
Oh,
space.
yes.
I believe.
Would you tell them?
We told them we wanted it the same way as it was before.
You didn't.
Which meant that the restaurant had its own bathrooms,
And
and
then
then there
there's
was separate public restrooms available for the public.
Yeah.
I hope so. Were they thinking of not having the public bathrooms? Tell me they weren't.
Who knows whether they were thinking about making the public bathrooms accessible
I
for the
think they just
restaurant?
Did it.
Just have one set of bathrooms.
Why wouldn't the restaurant want
Because
their
then the
own?
restaurant can maximize their internal
Oh,
footprint.
that's,
We always want more.
that's crazy.
Just, Eric, anything else?
Other than that, we just talked about reaches 2, 3, and 4 and how they're gonna affect.
And
11.
I would say for anybody who wants more information on any of the resiliency, please watch Environmental Protection Committee. And in fact, I may send out an email during the holiday week. It's fascinating watches. Okay.
Francis reminded me, we have 100 Cedar Street, which is all part of the 10th Street, the restaurant. We improved the restaurant indoors
Only.
only.
Okay.
The full board meeting is the second night of Passover.
No, it isn't.
No.
It's the 30th.
I moved it to the
Oh,
30th,
God,
because
okay.
Yeah.
none of us will be there. on the second night, or many of us, I should say. Mimi, anything?
Oh, no.
Mimi's rockin' solo, I will say Colin resigned
Oh, yeah.
from the board due to his, family needs, so he's just extraordinarily busy. He resigned effective.
You're the minute.
So,
Oh, minute, just like
minute,
person.
Mimi is the minute master now, but if anybody wants to, volunteer to help for the month, we'll let them yell at people.
Oh, and for like the past multiple weeks, I was able to do the newsletter this past weekend, but I was on vacation for a couple of weeks.
Okay.
So who replaced, what's the protocol for replacing?
We're not gonna.
We're not
replace
because
Colin.
we're having an election.
We're doing elections in what month?
No, but on the, as a like we'll get a new community board.
We nominate in May and our elections are in June, if I'm not mistaken.
And we notified the borough president's office, so they'll appoint somebody. Okay, Francis, maybe anything else? Okay, anything from,
What did?
what?
Isn't the timing on applying?
I'm gonna answer that in a sec. So, the applications are closed. We should have new appointees by the end of this month. Is what we were told this morning.
Some of us do.
Zach, do you have anything? All right, so I think, from sitting in these chairs, the wheels will help be a little taller, which will help taller people like
I like the
Brandon and Eric. who look like
Is it
they're
nice to
squished
be able to
into
put
the
your
chair.
feet up, Graham?
Very uncomfortable.
Those chairs were like, I did feel like Lily.
All right, I don't think we have any, this morning for Borough Board, Mark Levine commented about the open meeting laws being extended. He also spoke about, state budget being close to final. And then we had a really fabulous, presentation by the Independent Budget Office, which I found fascinating. And explained to me why we can't have affordable housing in New York City and in Manhattan. When you look at the sources of revenues and what the primary driver of the sources of revenues, it's all real estate tax. So there is no incentive to build affordable housing because you give away tax money, which is, so it's kind of like a long, it seems like the very politically appropriate thing to say, we're gonna build more affordable housing. But at the end of the day, the budget is based on tax money.
And you always have to ask the question, what do they mean by affordable?
Yes.
So that was,
Never forget that one.
They don't mean two bedroom apartment.
so that was the largest, that was a huge part of conversation. And the fact that they do some really, I asked if they could come up with policy looks at changes on things like that for that. It was really a fascinating presentation. And then we did point out the flaws in education funding, because the desire for small class sizes, as Tricia knows, does not meet with the per pupil funding method, and the fact that they estimate in June and then try and pull funding in October from schools, and the haves and have-not societies of what PTAs can afford to help stem the schools and what can't. And the way the system works is really not feasibly funded feasibly. And the way that charter schools fit into that method, and how, what it costs. So a charter school chooses to rent from a developer, and then the developer builds the DOE.
Is there a way to, could we just blanketly say that like community board one would like for our teachers to be paid more? Like, is there a way that we can push it? 'Cause I think that it would be nice for that to be in the public dialogue a little bit more. Like,
I'll see if I can get the slides, but the slides also showed revenues of industries and stuff like that. It was turning out that teachers are not well paid. And so,
Yeah.
And with that, does anybody have any other questions or comments or concerns? Oh, Betty, and Tricia, I didn't ask, about your resos, but I did. You're all set. Go ahead, Trish.
I do have a resolution. John Liu came to the meeting and he talked about, he was actually in Albany in his car, dialing into our meeting. And we asked some questions about the funding for this class size mandate. And they have given the city the funds to raise class sizes. And what they gave them was enough to get most of it done. You know, we did the math, and what I asked John is that, you know, where's the money? And he said that the DOE, unbelievably, is not obliged. They have, because of mayoral control, they can use the money however they want. So they're given the money, the $1 billion by the city or the state. They gave the city the $1 billion and said, here's the money to uphold Governor Hochul's mandate to reduce class sizes. Here's the schedule under which you have to reduce them. And as everybody knows, it's over a period of years and it's about percentages of compliance. And the DOE then takes the money and does nobody knows what with. So our resolution is going to say that it has to be earmarked and audited. And, you know, if we're going to, otherwise this whole thing is going to be a joke, because each year the mayor can decide to use that money for something else. Right now, we have like 40% compliance, mostly because we still have low enrollment because of the pandemic. But yearly now, the enrollment's going up. And so the time is now for this resolution, and the time is now, again, to create this transparency. And I will address Mimi's question about teacher salaries, is that to some extent, the principals have the ability to pay certain salaries. They really are, they're given the per pupil funding, and they can then create this portfolio of teachers in the schools. And I have heard that they have paid more for some and less for some. And I think they do have the ability to do that. Not that that's right and not that it's enough, but I didn't know whether you were aware of that. And because our principal salaries are some of the highest in the country. So even though they're still not what they should be at all, which is another thing we have, we're swimming upstream with that one because our salaries, you know, are obviously more expensive or more higher than other places in the country, but so is our cost of living. So that's something else we're working on.
All right. You definitely should listen to the Borough Board presentation as well today from the Independent Budget Office, because the conversations were all about the COVID-19 monies disappearing from city funding, and where the city's going, and their estimated of what the city will need versus what the city has said. Really interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tricia. Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Betty, for being online, and thank you, Paul. And Paul, is he still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah. All right, who's Jay? Anything you want to add about anything? Or Jason?
Not really.
Yeah, actually, in the same line of the teachers getting raised, can we put something in for preservationists and architects, even bald people, just in general, for raises?
Yeah.
How about community board that they give us?
Yeah, any of
dinner?
those. Maybe
Some-
just everybody deserves a raise.
All right.
All right.
On
Good
that
night.
note, thank you to Paul, and thank you to Jason. Thank you, everybody who joined us. Do I have any motions to go?
I so motion.
Okay, motion adjourned, 7:49, we're out. Thank
Great.
you.